You may have seen the clip about a week ago of the penguin that was walking into the mountain, away from the pack, away from safety, away from the chance of food. And everyone was wondering why. Why did the penguin do that? The clip was actually from a 2007 documentary by Werner Herzog that was filmed in Antarctica. If you're finding yourself feeling like the penguin in that video, this episode is for you. Let's get to it.
Hey, Steffi K got something to say. Talk that listens, clears the way. Truth on the mic, grounded in change. You sticking with that? Oh yeah, we sticking with that. Laugh it out, talk it through, we ain't looking back.
Some chats ain't easy, but we take it slow. Tough stuff, tackle now, watch us glow.
Sticking with it. Yeah, we sticking with
that. As humans, we are wired to narrate isolation as grief, rejection, burnout, choosing peace over chaos, or kind of that in general, I can't do this anymore, I am out of here feeling. And a lot of us, with things that we're seeing in social media these days and just on our TV and life in general, we're very overwhelmed. How can we break this down a little more so that we can get over this hump? A lot of us are feeling out of sync these days. We're done forcing things. We're tired of loud crowds. The penguin wasn't panicked as he was heading towards the mountain. He seemed sure of what he was doing. Now, there is really no follow-up, as the people that were in charge of the documentary, they didn't stay to figure out what happened to him in the end, so we can make it be whatever story we want it to be. In my opinion, there's a couple things going on here. Number one, I think the penguin was called by God to go up to the mountain. There's something he had to do. Sometimes when we're full of noise and chaos and distractions, we can't hear him, and we need to isolate in order to do so. So for the penguin, it was going to the mountains. Now, who's to say there wasn't some sort of, in one of the caves, some sort of warm land waiting for him? I'd like to believe that's possible. One thing that people in the documentary failed to mention is that God has no limits. There's absolutely no limit. So anything is possible. Anything is possible. My initial thought was that he was saying, F it. I am out of here. This is a big old no. And he moved to the top of the mountain at the corner of, F around and find out, which is where I live, and, found his mate up there and, living his best life. And then at some point will come down off the mountain to help everybody else. So that's one possible scenario that's kind of cool. He could also be captain of the Figure It Out Club, which so many of us are, where we have to figure it out on our own. And some of it is stuff that we expect, and some of it is all the things that life seems to throw at us that we didn't expect to handle on our own. And in order to see things clearly and move forward, isolation is sometimes necessary. Now, for me, I feel like God has put me in an isolation period, and I have said before, I've kind of gone kicking and screaming because being an extrovert, I love having people around me and almost need people around me. But I believe the lesson in this chapter that I have had to experience is all we really need is him. Yeah. And sometimes we have to get our life shaken up to realize that. It has been said that Adelie penguins have one mate for life, and they will spend their whole life searching for that one mate wherever they are. Upon research, I found that's not exactly true. There have been times where in different seasons, if they both make it back alive after the cold season, they do stay with the same mate most of the time. But sometimes the other one doesn't return. And in that case, they move on. So it's very romantic, yes. Is it an actual fairy tale? Not necessarily, but we can certainly make it into one. If you find yourself at wit's end right now, and you're thinking, I can't just go off into the mountain today, what could you do to help your current situation? Well, sometimes just turning slightly is all we need. We don't need to do anything quite so drastic. So what's a little thing that you could do? Maybe you could text a safe person and just get it off your chest, whatever it is that you're weighing heavily on today. Doing something normal, like take a shower or eat a meal that you enjoy, is another thing you could do. Follow your instincts, which I think is the absolute best choice. Instincts, things don't always mean danger when they're off. They can mean overload. And sometimes we automatically feel like we got to get up and get out of here, but maybe that's actually not the answer. Maybe we need to just look at it from a different angle. Another thing that penguins do that we can use in this story is let someone spot you from shore. So with every penguin that survived, they have someone watching, they have others calling them, they have others to rely on to intervene if they need it. Sometimes we just need to look at things from another perspective, as I said, through some other eyes to see the options that aren't immediately present. So what does that mean for you? I think sometimes we do need to isolate, whether we want to or not. And that is how we really figure out the direction we're going, the path we're on, and what we need to do next. For those of us that are knee deep in social media and the news, and you're kind of thinking, I don't even know what's true right now, I have been there. And sometimes, we learn one thing and we do double down on it and we share it with everybody. And then we find out the next day or the next week that wasn't true. And then we're frustrated because, we've shared it and maybe we're embarrassed. All the emotions come through and we just are like, I just want the truth. Doesn't matter even what it is, how ugly it is, how scary it is, how good it is. That's all I want is the truth. And I think once you get to that point, you are on the right track. I had a friend once, a good friend who I trusted for the truth and information. And at one point, he had sent me an article that I had forwarded to some other people, and it turned out to be many years old, and I don't even know if it was true. And I thought, why did he send that to me? And I know why now, because the point is we're supposed to research. And before we share information, make sure we know what it is we're sharing, regardless of the source it comes from. I have unplugged my TV, and it's been unplugged for quite some time. With my isolation process that has been bestowed upon me, I feel that I've increased my level of instinct and my knowing, and that stuff that you can't find on social media or in a TV. And the only way that I could get there was to turn it off completely. One day you're telling all your friends and family that, pink Himalayan salt is the salt that you should be using. And then the next day you hear, nope, that's not the salt. You should be using like Redmond's real salt or sea salt. And then you're like, well, wait a minute, which is true? What am I supposed to do here? And that's one little thing of so many things that are going on right now in the world. And have you guys looked into the troll farms at all? That's where they have like hundreds of cell phones on a wall and people in there, and they're just trying to make comments to upset us. So you might be speaking out about this area, then they have people that are just going and making a comment just to make people upset. Troll farms. So look into those if you haven't done so before. Once you learn about those, it kind of changes everything, because you think of the person, they call the Karen, sorry for any Karens, I love the name, out there that's stirring the pot or whatever. Well, what if that's actually just some people in a room doing it on purpose just to make you mad? Kind of changes everything, doesn't it? And makes you want to not respond. I mean, if the goal is to divide and cause division, you just kind of get to the point where you want to make sure that you're not a part of it and that you can do what you can to bring it all back together. For my stick-in story today, it's a personal story. It's from September of 2024. And I was walking on a beach, my favorite beach walk that I love to do daily if I can squeeze it in. And I was talking to my mom on the phone, and I saw a bird and it looked injured. It was on one leg. And I know some of you will say a lot of beach birds, like they put one leg up, but this was not what was going on here. It was actually an injured bird and it was on one leg. And so I said a prayer for the bird and had a little moment with the bird. I went on my walk and continued on. So didn't think about it again. So fast forward a few days later, we have a hurricane here, Hurricane Helene, in 2024. And Saturday was when we could get into our place. I was living in a first floor apartment. I'd lost all my stuff, all my furniture that I had just replaced after, leaving everything behind in Nebraska. So anyway, I'm sitting on the beach. I grabbed a lawn chair, which is about all I had that was in a closet, and went to figure out my next move. What am I going to do now? And I'm sitting on the beach and nobody's there. There's nobody there. The sun is shining. It's about ready to set. And I'm just have no clue what's going to happen next in any way, in any of my areas, emotionally, financially, physically, all the things. And so I'm sitting there and all of a sudden, this bird flew with one leg and landed right next to me. And my heart stopped for a minute. And it just looked right at me. And I thought, oh my gosh, where do birds go during a hurricane? When you're off the ocean, obviously they have instincts and obviously, they use those ahead of time. But there has to be those birds, right, that just get stuck in the storm and didn't know it was coming. And I thought, oh my gosh, this bird who I saw the week before survived a hurricane outside with no protection and somehow made its way. If the bird can make it, I can make it. So to tie the little sanderling bird from the beach in with the penguin that we're talking about today, what would be the similarities? Well, for me, it's faith, I guess. Faith in believing that no matter how rough it seems, you will always get through. Faith is believing in the things that we cannot see. So today, I am in a different apartment, in a place that I love, building a life that I love. And there's so many things to be grateful for every day. There's been so many things that happened after that we'll discuss in future episodes. But I just always remembered that bird story. And it's amazing how it's coming to life today with the video about the penguin. Sometimes faith says, I trust the next step, even if no one is walking with me right now in the physical sense. I'm also remembering the saying, all who wander are not lost. And also, getting lost doesn't mean you're off course forever. For my Steffi K thought of the day, I want you to ponder this. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So who are those people? Are they people whose character you enjoy, who build you up, lift you up? Are they a bunch of idiots? You need to answer that question. Maybe you do need to find a new penguin herd. Something to think about. In other news, we do finally have the store set up for you sticking with that. For those of you that are interested in purchasing t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats, all the fun stuff. We have stickers too that you could put on your laptop or any fun luggage bag type of situation. That site will be coming out here hopefully within this link as we continue on throughout the day. Also, if you feel this episode helped you and can help a friend, please pass it on. We are on all social media sites. And we air typically Wednesdays at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to leave you with one final quote as we head out today. Never regret any day in your life. Good days give you happiness. Bad days give you experience. And the worst days give you lessons. The best days give you memories. And I think as a final thought, we may need to be like the penguin and take some time to ourselves to recalibrate, refresh, build ourselves back up, and start again.